Okay, so we're taking a look at radar here. There's something that I wanted to show you that was pretty cool. We have our radar up here to the north west of the cell. This is the cell we're going to be paying attention to. So before I go ahead and start, if you guys do not know how to read velocity, essentially we have a radar here. We have the green basically represents air or winds that are moving to the radar. So they're moving right at the radar. And red is the opposite. Winds moving away from the radar at a given point. So now that you know that, we can go ahead and explain what is happening right here. So if you pay attention over here, so area I'm circling, you can actually see where we have outbound winds moving away from the radar. We have inbound winds moving away or towards the radar. So by this, we can assume that there is what we call divergence going on. Basically, air moving away from each other in both directions at one given point. So due to this, this actually causes an area of low pressure to form under here because all this air is moving away in both directions, and it's basically it has to refill that area. Basically the air is trying to reach an equilibrium. So as you know, winds flow from high to low pressure. So the air around it is higher pressure than the area of divergence. So basically what's happening in this is actually about 1,000 feet in the air. So what occurs with this, you have this air that's noticing that this is lower pressure, so it's going towards the area and it's lifting up. So it's going up in the air, bringing that warm air from the surface up with it. And so essentially what this means is that we're getting a new updraft that is starting to form. We got more air, warmer air that's starting to form, and so we're probably starting to see some pretty strong or pretty big cumulus towers along this area of divergence here. So we go ahead and take a look at radar here. We can actually still see that, or reflectivity, I shouldn't say. We've been looking at radar, but basically, let me remove that. So let's just pay attention to this area. Let's just pay attention to this tail right for a little bit. So we have strong divergence, fairly strong winds moving towards the radar, fairly strong broad winds moving away from the radar, and like I said, we have air that's rising due to the lower area of pressure. So we go ahead and move to the next frame, but before I do, we can actually assume that since we have this updraft, we're going to start to see a little bit more precip starting to appear here on the tail. We can actually already see a little bit of it due to this divergence from the last frame. So we still had a little bit of divergence going on. And the next frame, when we were just looking at, showing that there is precip that is starting to continue to be in this area, that's starting to grow. Now, here comes the cool part. Next frame, bam, there you go. We got ourselves area of precip. So we're looking around 30, 40 dBz, maybe even 50 in some spots. But there you go. So basically we have this divergence still going on. We have this warm air that's starting to rise into a cooler environment. And we got ourselves some more precip that is scanning. So it's basically just growing along the tail end. So we can expect that this cell is going to grow a little bit more south to the, basically to the southwest due to this little area of divergence. So we move to the next frame. Boom, there you go. So the storm relative motion is moving to the northeast. And so there you go. We can actually see where this divergence was occurring, and this all the air is moving to the northeast. And you can actually see where this tail, let's go back 2 frames, you can actually see where the tail formed and how it got stronger. So now we're looking at 40 to 50 dBz in this area. So basically, this is where that new inflow was starting to occur, like we were just talking about. We go ahead and look at the divergence zone. There's still divergence. We still have winds that, remember, the radar is up here. Oh my god, that's a big pen. Let's just, okay, I'm going to change the size a little bit. But our radar is right here, and we have the winds moving away from the radar and the winds moving towards the radar. So we still have an area of divergence or low pressure that's occurring here, trying to reach the equilibrium to fill the gap. So I'm going to remove that. We go ahead and move a little bit further, and we notice that the outbound winds, the winds that are moving away from the radar, are starting to weaken. We don't really notice too much. We do actually notice a little bit of widening of the precip base here, as you can actually see it just a little bit bigger, but not really much in length. It's not really shooting more south. That's because the area of divergence is starting to die out. Then we still have pretty strong winds that are moving towards the radar. However, the winds that are moving away from the radar, they're starting to weaken. It'll even show you in the next frame. It's still continuing to weaken. We actually have this really sharp gradient of precip. You know, I wonder if there would be like a shelf cloud just by looking at this. You know, from low precip to high precip in very, very short distance. But you can see right here our winds that are moving away from the radar are really weakening now. And there you go. Now we still have our winds. Now, even though this is moving to the right, the greens are moving technically away from the radar. That's due to the relative storm motion. This is pulling this with the storm, but the winds are still pushing towards the radar, essentially. And so there you go. We actually have a fairly decent hail core, it appears here. Let's even check correlation coefficient. Oh, yeah, there we go. So it looks like we do have a little bit of a hail core going on right here, a little bit of spikes. But yeah, that's besides the point here. I don't know. I just thought it was pretty cool. I thought I'd show you guys. Maybe you learned something today. I definitely kind of learned something today. And I really haven't looked at these last cell images, so let's just take a look here. Yeah, that thing lives pretty long. Yeah, look at that. So the storm's actually still going on. But there you go. I hope y'all enjoyed the video. Make sure to leave a like and comment down below if you have any questions. And all right, guys, I'll see you in the next video.